Hello and welcome to last week's news today. We are less than 2 weeks away from Alpha 2 Phase 1, so this week we're going to do something a little different than our usual video. Intrepid has been pretty quiet over the last couple of weeks, but Steven did drop by on a couple podcasts, so we want to try to put all the information together for you in a guide that will hopefully help you understand what to expect with Phase 1 and beyond. Before we dive into it though, make sure to check out the Alpha 2 key giveaway. We have the link below with all the details. It closes on the 21st and 100 winners will be given their keys on October 22nd, just in time for Alpha 2 on the 25th. Everyone that owns an Alpha 2 key from non-phase key packs will have access to this test. If you purchased a phase key, you join in 2 weeks after the start date of that phase. Phase 1 will run Friday to Sunday, each week up until Phase 2 begins on December 20th. That is 8 weekends. All Alpha 1 testers are now participating in the pre-Alpha 2 test, and with each testing cycle, Intrepid is seeing improvements. The studio is in a continuous test and react phase, with the last pre-Alpha 2 server running 24/7 for the past 7 to 8 days. The team is working 7 days a week to prepare for Alpha 2. Send them some love, they need it. Focusing primarily on stability and performance. Steven did emphasize that while there are some gameplay bugs to fix, the team is dedicated to ensuring a stable experience first. It was also great to hear that Intrepid interacts with their pre-Alpha 2 testers multiple times a day, actively communicating with players through voice chat and Discord, collecting logs, and engaging in focus group. This interaction helps developers identify areas for improvement in gameplay systems. Folks were asking what kind of feedback was needed, so Steven said that Intrepid is not seeking player solutions, rather they want players to describe the problem, allowing the devs to create effective solutions while openly discussing and sharing their development process with the community. Intrepid hopes to foster trust between the developers and the community, allowing players to witness the challenges and successes of development in real time while also motivating the team. Intrepid believes that dropping the NDA and embracing open development allows the world to see what happens during the development process, understand what an alpha entails, observe how the developers test and react, and witness how the game evolves day after day, week after week. This transparency will help Intrepid and Ashes of Creation reach a point that is received positively by a wider audience. By lifting the veil on development, Intrepid aims to demonstrate what it truly takes to create an MMO. By allowing players to have a voice in the process and keeping the dialogue open, Intrepid hopes to deliver a better overall product. Steven is confident in the studio and how they are performing to feedback and reacting to fixing problems. This will give them an opportunity to flex their live ops services. The studio is passionate and all the developers are working hard to create something they can be proud of. While open development might initially draw some negative feedback, Intrepid believes that in the long run, it will contribute to a better product. We know Intrepid are listening to us, so we need to listen to Intrepid. Steven also emphasized that the core systems defining Ashes of Creation, such as PvX and Dynamic World, will remain unchanged. Not all systems are currently online. He also mentioned that the studio has established partnerships with multiple professional QA houses, one in Europe and one in Mexico, in addition to their internal QA teams. He also said that testing sessions may focus on specific systems to streamline the testing process. These tests will occur on their public test realm, which has already launched alongside the pre-Alpha 2 server. So we want to remind everyone that the overarching goal of Alpha 2, especially Phase 1 for Intrepid Studio, is scalability and server stability, performance and progression as they aim to test their server meshing, Intrepid Net technology, and dynamic gridding system. They are aiming at this stage to support 3,000 concurrent users per realm with minimum realm and client crashes. Their goal is to have 3 North American realms and 3 European realms. So don't forget that the aim of Phase 1 is not content testing. This means that for 8 weekends starting from the 25th of October, Alpha 2 testers will be helping Intrepid collect necessary data that is needed to help resolve any server, scalability, stability, performance, and progression problems that may occur. That doesn't mean that there won't be any content, but it does mean that content is not their primary focus for Phase 1. Intrepid aims to add minor content every 3 weeks and major features and content every 6 weeks. They will also be hotfixing things on the go for any critical issues that arise. Be aware that these tests may involve wipes, but their goal is to keep character progression persistent. If you are wondering what the major difference from Alpha 1 is, new network layer and dynamic server meshing, update from Unreal Engine 4 to Unreal Engine 5.3, PvP PvP and PvE combat systems. This has been updated since Alpha 1. More in-depth economy and profession systems, range of questing systems, events, story arcs, world bosses, etc. Now remember, Phase 1 will feel like the bare minimum as we iterate again. The focus of Phase 1 is not content. It also doesn't mean that features and content don't exist on the dev side internally. It's just that Intrepid wants us testers to test and squash bugs on certain systems before they introduce more. There will be a variety of content to engage with, however, it will be in its most basic form. There will be 5 nodes in the Riverland. When you are within a zone of influence, any activity you do will contribute towards node XP. Nodes during this phase can level up to stage 3. Stage 3 is a village, and will pretty much be the equivalent of a low-level starting node with basic amenities. The vassalship network isn't expected to come into play until phase 2. At the village stage, we can expect beginner systems such as mayorship, or service building plots, 5 default buildings such as a caravansary, range of constructed buildings, citizenship buy orders, service building expansion voting, player commodities, and more. This will start to ramp up during phase 2 when node advancement, economy testing, and vassaling will become the focus. Steven clarified how nodes are placed in the world by mentioning that nodes are plugged into the terrain, occupying a 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer space. This integration is beneficial because the node evolves as its level progresses. Intrepid are also able to add small outposts and other elements to exist outside the main node. The flagging system will be in phase 1, along with the corruption system. Left Alt on your keyboard will put you on auto flag. There will also be lawless zones, which will act like an auto flag and no consequences area. These areas will always be the next area that Intrepid is going to add into the test. Once they update the area to have their content, the lawless zone will be moved to the next biome. Steven also mentioned that there is an intention to protect players from griefing encounters during the initial gameplay experience. The approach, whether through level gating or designating starting zones, is still under discussion. Areas flagged for PvP can be enabled or disabled by developers easily. Spawn shrines may have buffer zones around them to prevent griefing. PvE, including questing, dungeons, and raids, they will be very basic in phase 1. Dynamic dungeons, NPC ambient behavior, and story arcs won't be available until phase 2. Instance content, where some of the most elaborate bosses will be featured, won't be introduced until phase 3. There will be commission boards, which offer system-generated quests with singular objectives. These can be accessed in nodes by everyone, and it will display quests based on your level and node reputation. They can come in different rarities. Remember, these can be completed straight from your log when you are out and about, so these will be great to pick up for a bit of extra experience while you're out there. Mayors will also be able to set commissions for players to pick up too. Remember, a lot of the questing ties into the story arc, so phase 1 will feel out of place and disconnected in terms of story. There are 4 pocket dungeons and 1 grand dungeon to explore in phase 1. There will be 3 world bosses, Tumok, Firebrand, and I'm not sure who the third boss is. It could be Larry Lamont on the Tower of Carfin, as the grand dungeons are open world. There will be 8 points of interest. Again, these will be at basic level until dynamic events and story arcs are introduced during phase 2. Water, ground, and flying mounts, mayors only, will be in phase 1. As stated during the latest live stream, some quests will give mounts, and hunting will be part of earning these for phase 1 until animal husbandry breeding is in during phase 2. One of the major changes from Alpha 1 is the New World style gathering. Again, this will be in basic format until artisan trees are available in phase 2, and surveying will be in phase 1, and group gathering will be coming during phase 2. All processing artisans will be in phase 1, but only up to level of journeyman. Best processing is done on freeholds, and as explained in the live stream, Lionhold will act as a basic processing hub as freeholds come in phase 2, and guild freeholds come in phase 3. All artisan crafting will be in phase 1. Best crafting is done in node. Recipes will be in phase 1. Crafting will be up until journeyman level. Again, artisan skill trees won't be in until phase 2. We will be able to craft caravans in phase 1. Players will be able to go to hunting lodges to pick up commodities, which can then be transported by using the cargo system for a profit in other nodes. Remember, caravans count as a battleground, and players will be able to defend or attack these. The raft system will also be in place during phase 1, so if you take your caravan to a river, it will begin to deconstruct and convert into a raft. Steven did emphasize that balance changes are simple to do, and as they gather more data from Alpha, tuning will be happening throughout, which is in part the open development process and benefit of the Alpha. There is going to be action and tab combat. You can see on the keybind map that you can toggle between each mode if you press Z. There is a mailing system and a trading system in Phase 1, but player stalls in the auction house won't be introduced until Phase 2, so it will be some old school trading until then. There will be node wars, guild wars, and PvP caravan systems in place during Phase 1, and they will be expanded upon in later phases. When we check out the size of the Alpha 2 Phase 1 map compared to the map of Vera, we can see the Riverlands is a pretty big chunk of the Vandegar continent, but still a small area in terms of the whole map. Sandsquall Desert and Vanguard Tropics will be added in during Phase 2, and the map will be expanded to the Anvils and the Turquoise Sea in Phase 3. And where those are, your guess is as good as mine. Day and night cycle. And seasons will be in Phase 1. There is no mention of weather. I imagine this would come in Phase 3. We know it exists as we have seen it during live streams. Vec, Kalar, and Empyrean will be the races you can choose from for Phase 1. Veilun and Dunir come during Phase 2, and Pyre, Rinkai, Nikua, and Tolnar are being introduced during Phase 3. Cleric, Bard, Tank, Ranger, Fighter, and Mage will be in Phase 1. You'll be able to level up to 25. Max level for launch is intended to be level 50. We won't start seeing augmentations until Phase 3 when some secondary archetypes come into play and the last primary archetypes have been added in. At the end of Alpha Phase 3, Ashes should be feature complete, not content complete. We expect us to see a big difference from the beginning of Phase 1 to the end of Phase 3. What we are beginning with will definitely not be representative of what we are going to have with Ashes of Creation come launch, so please keep that in mind. We hope this guide helps a bit, and we are really looking forward to seeing how Ashes of Creation grows throughout Alpha and beyond.